For the second year running, Reform and Nigel Farage are the triumphant victors of a local election campaign. Undoubtedly, they are the winners. Over 1,400 new councillors in England. They finished in joint second in Scotland and second in Wales as well. So it was across the board a good result for them. Some areas perhaps where they might have left a bit of performance on the table, but for the most part, just looking at the map, you can see how much turquoise is now on there, having of course been none on there on the 6th of May. They have made an impact on this map for sure. And look, their slogan going into the election, which I saw them catch some stick for online, was "Vote Reform, get Starmer out." And it looks like, I mean, this video is going up on Wednesday as the plan. Maybe he's already announced that he's going by the time this comes up, but it certainly looks like it's imminent. Yeah, so they were definitely the victors again for the second year running. Talk about the national equivalent vote share. We've mentioned, some have said that it's down at 27%, which is down on last year. Look, that is true. But bear in mind that London elected this year, and I think that's dragged down Reform's overall vote share in the country quite a lot. We'll be doing a video on this channel separately once I've got all the data in my spreadsheet. It's still being manually inputted by myself and some wonderful volunteers, your fellow subscribers, who are helping me to put all this data in. Once it's all in, we can look at, and we will do a video on the vote share across England, and then we'll take London out and see what the difference is. I don't know what the difference will be, but I've got a feeling that it might be quite a stark difference for Reform in particular. And then in terms of how the national equivalent vote share is calculated, look, I don't know exactly how it all works. And look, you can say, well, the national equivalent vote share, the reason of it is to project a general election. So London is going to be included, so you can't just ignore it. And that's true, but it'll be interesting to look at. Anyway, let's get into this video, guys. Thanks for being here. We've gained a load of subscribers in the last few days since this election. So if you haven't yet subscribed, please do come and join this wonderful community, and leave a like on the video if you wouldn't mind as well, please. Let's go and have a look at some charts. We'll start in Cannock Chase. Now, I picked Cannock Chase over there in the West Midlands because this was the largest vote share for Reform in terms of a vote share gain for Reform in the country as of the data we've got so far in our data sheet. So Reform, you can see a crushing performance, so 53.5% of the vote. Cannock Chase was only electing by thirds. So look, they've been let off the hook, the parties who were defending here, because they probably would have been wiped out if it had been a full council election. So massive vote share for Reform in Cannock Chase. And just to look at the change, Reform almost pushing off the end of the scale there. And taking from everyone, basically taking off the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. Interesting to see, isn't it, that the numbers don't even quite add up. So it'd be interesting to see if I think the turnout was all right across most of England. I wonder if a few voters came out to back Reform, having not voted previously. That'd be an interesting thing to see. But Cannock Chase, I wanted to highlight that one because it was a massive crushing performance by Reform over Labour and the Conservative Party, taking votes off of both the main two. And this is their stated aim, isn't it, to crush Labour and the Tories. And I mentioned in that last video that we did yesterday about Starmer and Labour, how at the moment Reform are having sort of building this coalition of people who have traditionally voted Tory for a long time in Essex and Norfolk and Suffolk and maybe even Sussex, but they're also managed to bring in people now from places like Greater Manchester, maybe a place like here in the West Midlands as well. So that coalition is gradually building. Can they maintain it? Let's hop across to Wigan. So going into that Greater Manchester area, and now we're getting into this heartland Labour territory where they shouldn't be losing. These shouldn't be marginals. These should be bankers. These are the bankers for Labour. If they're having to defend places like this and, well, not defend them, lose them, then the Labour Party is in dire straits. So Reform here again with a crushing victory, 46.3% of the vote in Wigan for Reform, and a good 22 points ahead of Labour, massively ahead of Labour in what should be one of their heartland areas, which goes to show why the alarm bells would be going for Labour, as obviously they are. Again, vote share tells 1,000 stories. Reform up 43, Labour down 27, and the Tories also down 6. Just continuing from that video I did on Monday, look, we wouldn't expect the Tories to do well in places like Greater Manchester, but it's just interesting to see that their vote share is declining from the little they had to even less. I think there's a good example of that a bit later on up in the northeast. Going to Wakefield to Yorkshire. I mean, let's just have a look at the map for Yorkshire quickly before we look at these. So Yorkshire, I mean, this is just incredible. Let's look at the map as it was as well. So there's Yorkshire as it was on the 6th of May, red throughout, and now after this election, Reform have just taken a bulldozer to Labour's Yorkshire heartlands. And look, this is interesting. You see the split between Yorkshire and Greater Manchester. The reason is a lot of those Yorkshire councils were full council elections. Wakefield was a full council election. Barnsley was a full council. Kirklees was a full council. Calderdale was a full council. Bradford was a full council as well. Leeds was the only one here, and Sheffield were the only two that weren't. And they both ended up being Labour largest party because they were insulated. In Greater Manchester, the map would look far, far different if it had been a full council election in most of these and not thirds. And the only one that was St Helens. Beg your pardon, Sefton was as well, actually. But St Helens was one of the two that was full council. And look what happened there. Reform won St Helens, and they won it comfortably too. So interesting to see that sort of the contrast of the map, where Labour insulated there out to the west by the thirds, but not insulated at all in Yorkshire, and they lost pretty much everything. So interesting to see. So go back to the Wakefield chart then, and Reform got 44.4% of the vote. Labour down on 25.9% of the vote. Let's go and look at the vote share change. And again, just look at this. A straight transfer, Labour and Conservative to Reform. And again, the numbers don't quite add up, so I wonder if there is an increased turnout in here as well. Others making small, great gains down there, but Reform clearly the big gainers in Wakefield, and this was the case across most of Yorkshire. I think I've got a few more Yorkshire ones here. Go to the Midlands first. So Newcastle under Lyme. This was a gain of the Tories. So again, just to emphasise the fact, last year, Reform took a bulldozer to most of the Tories' county holdings. This year, it was majority to the Labour holdings in Greater Manchester, the North East, and the North West. But there was still gains off of the Conservative Party. And going back to my video on Monday again, I don't get the Conservative spin that this was a good result for them. I think it was a catastrophic result for them. I acknowledge that it could have been worse. They could have been wiped out almost everywhere, and they weren't. They did manage to find some places to hold on, but I think in the aggregate it was a very, very bad result for them. So Reform up 41 points, and again, it's straight transfer. Labour and the Conservatives pretty much direct to Reform. There is some Green increase in there as well, probably from the Labour Party. Very, very interesting to see just Reform across the country wiping out the Uniparty, really, which is what they have aspired to do. So very interesting to see them managing to actually make that happen. Come down to the south coast then, and Gosport, so down there near Portsmouth, and Reform here got 34.3% of the vote, the Conservatives on 30% of the vote. So this was another one where I believe, if I'm remembering rightly, Reform managed to end up being the largest party on Gosport Council. And the vote share change here, again, just that they are the big gainer. The Greens gaining, all right, 8 points is pretty good, but the Reform Party up 33 points. And interestingly here, look who's down the most. The Liberal Democrats down 18 points, with Labour and the Conservatives also both down 11. Be interested to know how much of that Liberal Democrat vote went to the Greens. Was that Labour to the Greens, or was it Liberal Democrat to the Greens? Obviously, I've been saying pre-election the Greens might be a blind spot for the Liberal Democrats. It didn't really work out that way. I don't think the Greens had a very good election. We'll be doing a video on that in probably tomorrow. But yeah, interesting to see, isn't it? So Reform again making gains off of the Liberal Democrats here. This was a Liberal Democrat largest party council prior, I believe, if I'm remembering rightly. So again, just gains across the board for Reform. It was a very, very good election. There are people trying to spin this, that Reform had a letdown of an election, and they didn't. There are some question marks or some places they might feel a bit let down. We'll talk about that in a minute, but for the most part, this was a crushing performance for Reform across the board. Calderdale, back to Yorkshire. Reform here get 37.3% of the vote. Labour down on 21.5%, just ahead of the Greens by about 1.5%. Again, the vote share change, look, it looks the same. I just wanted to highlight in how many places this happened. 37.3 points up for Reform, 20 points down for Labour. And again, it's pretty much Labour Conservative direct to Reform. Interesting here, look, Liberal Democrats down 4, Greens up 3.8. Is that thing I was talking about there? Maybe. But again, a straight vote transfer from the two main parties to Reform. It's just quite incredible to see. A couple more to do. Up to the North East, we can't ignore the North East. Gateshead then, 37.1% of the vote for Reform, and they won a hatful of seats in Gateshead. Another council that was full council. And in fact, if we go back to our map and look at the North East, much the same thing. There it is now, and this is what it was before. It was all red. Now it's pretty much all blue for the most part. North Tyneside was a thirds election, so they were insulated there, but everywhere else, Labour have been absolutely wiped out. Yeah, not good for them. I mean, south of the Tyne, it's just all gone blue, basically. Hartlepool's gone to no overall control. That was thirds as well. Reform are tied with Labour for the largest party, which is why we've got it coloured in grey there. But back to the chart for Gateshead. I know some of you will be surprised by this because I had put in my predictions that Reform would win Gateshead, and a lot of you said, I don't see that happening. That is Labour heartland territory. Well, it has happened, and they won by 10 points in the end. And again, the vote share changes. It's much the same, really. 37 points up for Reform, 22, 23 points down for Labour, and the Conservatives down 10. Again, it's a pretty much straight transfer, the two main parties to Reform. It's happened across the country, from the south coast up to the northeast coast. Reform just conquering all before them, really. One last thing to look at is Fareham. Now, this is one where I do think the Reform Party might feel a little bit let down with how they performed. It was a thirds election, but they didn't actually, although they came only 3 or 4 points behind the Conservatives in the overall vote share, they didn't really manage to land a blow on them in terms of seats. So they won a couple, but a lot of them, the Tories defended them quite successfully. However, when I came to, I was preparing for this video, and I thought, well, I've got to be balanced and talk about Reform in the areas where maybe they weren't all that happy. And Fareham was one that came up, and it came up in our Tory video on Monday as well. But I mean, when you look at the vote share percentage, the vote share change, sorry, it feels a bit wrong to be saying they've had a letdown when the Tories have lost 17 points and the Reform Party are up 24. I think we've just seen them getting 35 point plus increases in various places, and maybe, this looks like a bit of a letdown for them. Like I've said, I do think Suella Braverman, Reform MP, will be a little bit concerned. Fareham and Waterlooville is her constituency, and the Conservative vote, look, down 17 points is very bad, but it didn't go down enough for them to lose control of the council. So she may be a little bit concerned about that, but who knows? I mean, this is now, who knows what might happen next year. Again, Fareham will be electing next year. Maybe Reform make more inroads next year, or maybe the Conservatives fight back. Who knows? But this was the only one I could really think of where they didn't do too well. Even the London ones like Bromley and Bexley, all right, they were predicted to win Bexley and could have been largest party in Bromley, and they'll be disappointed to not have done that. But they still increased their vote share by a similar amount. So that's why I'm bothered putting the chart up. They were still up by over 20 points. So it feels, like I say, it just feels a bit of a bit wrong to say a party's had a letdown when they increase by that much. One thing that I found quite amusing preparing for this video was, like I say, I wanted to be balanced and talk about areas of the country where maybe Reform didn't perform quite as well. And so using the data that we have in my database, I just ordered it to show the lowest vote share increases for Reform. I thought we could talk about those, and what happened and what came up was quite amusing. So I'm going to go through a list, and this is the first 23 that come up on the list of the worst. So from the worst and ascending order, these are the councils where Reform's performance was the most underwhelming. Let me know in the comments if you can spot the link between the vast majority of these councils. So the worst was Hackney, then Lambeth, Haringey, Tower Hamlets, Islington, Lewisham, Wandsworth, Camden, Cambridge, Oxford, Kensington and Chelsea, Brent, Richmond upon Thames, Westminster, Ealing, Harrow, Enfield, Hammersmith and Fulham, Kingston upon Thames, Merton, Redbridge and Barnet. I just found it quite interesting. It's not too far down. You get Croydon. And actually, to be fair, even in the ones at the bottom of that list, they're already up to over 10 points increase. So, but I just found that list quite amusing, to be honest with you. One area where I do think maybe Reform might feel a little bit disappointed is Scotland. I think they maybe left a little bit on the table here. Look, I mean, they came second, which is an incredible result. Let me just change this chart quickly. Just change the chart so you can see the Parliament at the bottom there. And look, Reform are in joint second place with Labour, obviously way behind the SNP. They didn't win any constituency votes, which I don't know if they're disappointed at or not. I don't know if that was a target or not, but I think they could have done better on the list vote. Obviously, they won all their 17 seats there, but I feel like maybe they didn't quite put it into the Conservatives enough. I mean, the Tories are in, like I said, they're in fifth place up here in Scotland, which is very, very poor. But maybe there was some more to take there off the Tories, and maybe even off Labour as well. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like the Scotland campaign went too well for Reform. Let me know what you think in the comments. I feel like maybe Scotland's a bit of a disappointment for Reform. And the only other area really that's worth talking about, and it's not highlighted on our map because there wasn't actually an election there, but we should talk about Great Yarmouth just in here. So Great Yarmouth, of course, is in Norfolk. And there was a party standing in Great Yarmouth this year called Great Yarmouth First, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. that is a proxy for Restore Britain. I'm going to call them Restore Britain from now on because I'm sure they'll probably all defect as Restore Britain, I assume. I don't know. But it was Rupert Lowe's party. It preceded Restore Britain as a party, and they stood 9 candidates, I beg your pardon, for the seats in Great Yarmouth for Norfolk County Council, and they won all 9. And not only did they win all 9, they won all 9 very, very comfortably. So that's something to bear in mind if you are a Reform supporter. The Reform Party might be a bit alarmed by that. Look, their stated intention is essentially to replace Reform. They see Reform as Tory 2.0, and they want to replace them, and they think that they have the numbers to do that, and this will make them very, very bullish. I think that they clearly have some cut through, otherwise this wouldn't have been possible. One thing I will say that I think should be considered by the Restore Britain supporters is that this was 9 seats in an election of over 5,000 seats. On this election, Restore Britain were able to focus all of their campaigning, all of their resources, all of their time on 9 seats in one town, in one county. If you're going to be a national party, you can't do that. Does Restore Britain have the depth and breadth and resources and experience to fight 5,000 seats in England and seats in Scotland and seats in Wales? That's going to be the question. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying there is a big caveat to the success they had in Great Yarmouth. But look, there was a great success in Great Yarmouth. They actually have more seats on Norfolk County Council than the Tories do now. And they deprived Reform of a majority because Reform, I think, are 3 or 4 shy, maybe 2 or 3 shy. So those 9 seats deprive Reform of a majority. So there's something to temper the Reform sort of success narrative. But look, overall, it was obviously a very, very good election for Reform. They are clearly the winners, certainly in England. I think in Scotland, like I say, I think they'd have to be on the table, but they still did come second, joint second with Labour. And in Wales, I think they pretty much performed in accordance with what most people expected. So they are the triumphant winners for the 2nd year in a row. The question is, can they keep that up now? Can they do it for the 3rd year in a row in 2027? It's going to be interesting what the polls do, because the polls, like I said, they were underpolled. I think I'm correct. We'll find out when we do our vote share graph and video. Will the polls start showing them slipping again towards the end of this year, and we'll have all the people saying peak Reform again, and then the same thing happens next year? Or will there be a difference? Who knows? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got this far and you haven't yet subscribed, please do come and join the channel, and I will see you in the next one.